What is up? Hey you guys, welcome to episode number 3 of AskEllis. And today I'm going to try to keep the format a little more tight. Humans have submitted some, what's up Z-Man? Users have submitted some questions, and I've chosen 5 here, but I've only circled the questions, no answers written down, just in order I think that might work. What's up, my brother? Hope you're doing good today. So what I'm going to attempt to do today is keep this a little tight and try to change the format. I'm going to try to answer some questions off the cuff. I mean, obviously I've seen them because I picked them out, but I didn't write anything crazy. Yeah, let's start off with what's popping. Today I took my workout. This is some boring shit, but I took my workout from 9 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. in the evening and moved it to 4, which sucked because of traffic. But hopefully it's giving me more time to prepare this, and we can get something a little cooler going out. So, the way this is going to work is I'm going to try to give people's names if they have their name posted, like their actual name, and then their Instagram tag. And when I learn to move this to YouTube, I'm going to try to have like a pop-up here, which I'll try with this one. I'm just not sure if I'll be able to pull it off, where when I actually say, your name and what your question is, there'll be a link up here where people can click and go straight to you and give you some love. Whether or not I can do that, we'll find out. We'll find out whether or not I have the skills for that and how long it takes me to pull that off, but we're going to try that. So let's get things kicking, man. Let's get things kicking straight away. Question number 1 from Pedro. This is Pedro Suarez 25. That's Pedro Soares 25. He says, I want to know the moment you knew you wanted to play guitar, and who influenced you or gave you the idea, at what age, and what was your first song? Thanks for answering. All right, well, Pedro, this is one of those romantic-y things, because when you're 13, 14 years old, you have some romantic ideas that people later on in life don't have. Or maybe they're just pushed down, but you have some crazy romantic ideas at that age. I can tell you exactly what it was. Okay, so my older brother played electric guitar. Like straight up, like not classical, not being fancy, just straight up, I'm going to play electric guitar in an electric guitar band. Not focused on technique or shredding, just being a dude in a band playing some music. And I always thought that was cool. I thought it was very cool, my older brother. But here was the turning point. And it's so silly, it's like some romantic-y shit, but it had an impact. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana committed suicide. And that was a really pivotal time for me. Nirvana at that point was the realest shit in the universe. There were other good bands, Soundgarden, was great. Alice in Chains was great at that time. But nobody they weren't even close. Like tier 1 is Soundgarden and those guys, but top tier is Nirvana, like the emotion and rawness that they brought to everything. And you say they, I mean, obviously Dave Grohl is a killer on drums, but Kurt is leading the way with the lyrics and the guitar playing. And he had committed suicide. And I remember, this is completely vivid in my head, I remember laying in my bed, looking across the room at, that boombox, the combination boombox of like 2 tape decks and a CD player. And I was listening to Nirvana Nevermind, and I was on that last track before any weird shit, the Something in the Way, a very low-key song. And I remember thinking that this dude's gone. Like, this guy that I'm listening to, he's just not here anymore. Like, and all this music that he's made that's impacted me is just not here. And I just had this silly thought. It was just like, okay, one guitar player just left the earth. Like, maybe I could pick up a guitar. Like, we just lost somebody. So maybe there's a chance if I pick up a guitar at some point, It wasn't even like I could be a Kurt Cobain. It wasn't that at all. It was just like we lost somebody conveying real ass emotion. It wasn't even that. It wasn't even that thought out. It was just that, like, I'm moved by your music and you are dead. So, like, maybe I can mix music. It was as simple as that. And what was my first song? The actual first song was Come As You Are by Nirvana, which I called up a friend of mine who said that he had figured out how to play it, and he called out the frets over the phone to me, which I wrote down numerically because I didn't even know that tab existed at that point. But he was like, I'm playing 2nd fret, 0 fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. And I was like, oh, I'll just write down these numbers. And of course, within like a week, I was reading tab and doing all that. And that was the moment that I decided to play guitar. And that was the thing that moved me in that direction. There was nothing classical, nothing fancy about it. There was no dream of being like a technically proficient guitar player. There was none of that. It was just this human being whose music has meant so much to me is gone. And there's a void, and hopefully a bunch of people will step up to fill that void, and I'll try. I will start doing this, and hopefully something good will come out of it. That's that. That's question number 1 from Pedro. Question number 2 from Mega Vidal. Maigavidal. I went to check her account. I didn't see a different name, so maybe Mega is her name. Sorry if that's a common name in a different country. I don't know it. Her question is, why Spanish guitar? Why are you playing so much Spanish guitar? She didn't say so much. I'm saying that. She just said, why Spanish guitar? Okay, so I assume by Spanish she means classical guitar, and me playing a nylon string guitar like this. Why so much of this thing? Okay, to be fair, we got to give love to our Spaniards, because the dominating people who made the guitar happen in the 19th century, 1830s, 1840s, 1850s. What's up? Love you, Drew. Well, first you got to realize that the guitar, the way you know it today, with 6 strings and the proportions that it has, and the distance between the strings and the tuning of it, is relatively new. And relatively new being 1800s, where something like the violin, we can go back probably 1600s, 1500s. I'm not that great on my violin knowledge, but those orchestral instruments, you had killers 400 years ago, whereas the guitar, the way we know it today, didn't exist that way. We had other instruments, 4 strings, 5 strings, 6 strings, and even with 6 strings, they didn't know how they were going to tune them yet. They didn't know if they wanted an extra high string or an extra low string. So yeah, we have to give props to people for Spanish guitar, because people like Fernando Sor and Aguado and Tarrega really paved the way for great musicianship on a classical guitar level. And classical guitar is not even fair, because the classical period is like 100-year period out of the last 600 years of music, but that's just what we call it. But why Spanish guitar? Why the fuck do I play Spanish guitar? This is probably some ego shit, probably. When I first started working hard at the electric guitar, when I was 15, 16 years old or something like that, and I was playing in retrospect a crazy amount of music a day, at least for me, whatever that is, 6 hours, 8 hours a day, play before school, play on the fucking bus, play at lunchtime, play after school, play on the bus on the way home, play before soccer practice, play before football practice, play before whatever, play after practice, go to your buddy's house. You're just playing like all the fucking time. So I'd work hard because I wanted to bring something to the table, or bring something to the table. I didn't want to suck, so I would put in a lot of time. But then you'd have these interactions where you play with a drummer and the time's all messed up, or you play with the bass player and he doesn't fucking know the bass line. And I used to think in my head, like, God damn it, I was so mad. Probably just ego, but I was just so mad. I was like, God, man, this drummer doesn't know this song, and this bass player doesn't know this song, and whoever doesn't know this song. And when I started playing fingerstyle guitar, which I covered the story, I think last time, of why I started, who I heard that made me do it. It was a realization that with classical guitar, all of the fault fell on me, right? If the song's not good, that's my fault. If the rhythm's bad, that's my fault. If people don't give a fuck about what I'm doing, it's 100% my fault. And I enjoyed having the pressure of that and the knowledge that if I actually executed on all the ideas consistently, I could be successful without having to worry about a drunk or high guitarist or drummer or whoever. And that was basically that. The idea that if I did a good job, I could have a good song. I didn't have to blame anybody. And if it was shit, it's my fault. And I enjoyed that pressure. So that was question number 2. For anything you missed earlier, question number 1 was want to know the moment you knew you wanted to play guitar, who influenced you or gave you the idea, and at what age was your first song? We nailed that. Question number 2, why Spanish guitar, which I think means classical guitar in general. Let's move on to question 3. Yeah, where's Josiah? I think Josiah went live earlier. I haven't checked in with Josiah today. Question number 3 from Marissa. Her handle is New York Views. That's NYViewsflatfee. NYVIEWSFLATFEE. I'm not sure I should be spelling shit out, but that's what she says. She says, I like this question a lot. Do you accompany singers? Or are they all dumb bitches to you? Only kidding, excuse my French. Okay, well, first of all, Marissa, when you say only kidding, excuse my French, I don't believe you at all. I think you're trying to soften your blow. I think you really mean, do you accompany singers, or are they all dumb bitches to you? That's a fair question. Two parts to this. There's a lot of singers that are dumb bitches. That's truth. That's reality. But that's not any different than the rest of it. There are a bunch of lead guitar players that are dumb bitches. There's a lot of everybody who's dumb bitches. And how they are dumb bitches is different based on the role they're expected to serve. Z-Man was here. He might have already left because I might have bored him. So, dealing with our singers dumb bitches. Okay, luckily for me, the majority of singers that I have played with in the last, I don't even know, 5 or 10 years. Nice to see you. What's up? Bernard P. Fife? Bernard, what's up? But singers, are they dumb bitches? The majority of ones that I've come across in the last 5 or 10 years have been great, but that might be because of who they know and how they're getting to me and who's asking me to play, and maybe the caliber of people I've been playing with has increased. So the quality of the singers coming through those people has also increased. That's a possibility. But let's describe dumb-ass singers. What is a dumb bitch-ass singer? Singers that are focused on the image and the presentation instead of the quality and the execution. That's important. Image is important. You have to win people over. People need to, if you're going to be in front of people's faces, they need to want to watch you. So I'm not focusing on image and clothing and all that shit, but singers who aren't concentrating on the craft more than the image presentation, which leads to this: unprepared. Singers that are unfucking prepared drive me ballistic, because you end up with a group of people. It could be what's really traditional, right? Like bass, guitar, keys, or bass, guitar, lead guitar, keys, bass, guitar, whatever, and add a drummer to all that. So bass, drums, guitar, lead guitar, keys. And then the singer's constantly going like, oh, let's try that again. Let me try this other thing. It's like, dude, you're asking 5 or 6 other people, and we're not even assuming a horn section or anything like that. You're asking 5 or 6 people to keep playing the same section while you test out fucking ideas. Like, couldn't you just be at home with the track on repeat and test out fucking ideas instead of asking all of us to do that? And it's not like we're being haters, but time is sacred. Because a lot of times, play good knowing what you wear. Well, it's both. It's true. You're right. But if you played amazing guitar and your fucking suit was on fire, that would be a little cooler than if your suit wasn't on fire. But anyhow, back to unpreparedness, which is maybe we're playing something that's difficult. Maybe like it's Led Zeppelin or something. Which, hey, if I played with you on Led Zeppelin, I'm not talking about you. This is just an example. Where the bass work and the drum work and the guitar work is at a very high level, and you're asking people to play it 5, 6, 7 fucking times in a row while you test out ideas, and our hands get tired, man. Like, it's just, it's like working out. Like, you want us to play some super high level shit while you test out vocal ideas that you could have tested out at home. That is what I would call dumb bitch ass singers. Singers that just aren't prepared and are wasting the time of 4 or 5 other people. That is question number 3. I'm going to try to do 5. I'm going to do 5 off the paper if something doesn't pop up here. Question number 4. We're going to go a little more technical on 4 and 5. Question number 4 from matteuscobo. matteuscobo. Tips on performing and overcoming performance anxiety. I see how they're related, but they're actually kind of they're connected, but they're separate, right? Performing is, how do I get across my music and my message and my emotion to the audience? And anxiety is dealing with how is the stress and the adrenaline in my body affecting the way I actually perform on the instrument, which obviously they impact each other. If you have a bunch of stress and extra tension in your body, it will be difficult to execute the ideas you've practiced. But let's kind of separate them. On performing, performing is an experience. It's about conveying an experience to the audience that they're down for. If what we're trying to do is make everyone happy, then it's for conveying a good emotional journey for the audience. If you're just someone doing something, what would you call it? Like performance art, something where you don't really care if the audience loves it, then you just focus on the performance itself so you can get the performance out. Okay, so for anxiety though, a lot of ways to deal with anxiety, and they're all different, and I have suffered from this many times, and I probably would tonight. If you were like, Ellis, let's go play downtown for like an hour right now, I would absolutely have anxiety because I haven't prepared for that. So number 1 is preparation. Prepare your music, and a lot of times you don't realize, especially in the lower levels, you don't realize how inadequate your preparation has been until you are about to go on stage. And the feeling that washes over you, you just call anxiety. But really what that feeling is a realization that this is what you could do, and this is what you're maybe capable of tonight, and this is what you're actually going to do. So that difference between your real, not future potential, the difference between your real potential today versus what you're actually going to pull off, that discrepancy, that cognitive dissonance is going to cause anxiety. Because you're trying to chase what you're capable of, but what you haven't actually prepared for. So preparation is key. And preparation, that might mean playing a song 100 fucking times in a row. Maybe it's 200, maybe it's 300, maybe it's 50. It depends on who you are and how you deal with it. Because when anxiety takes over, what you want to be able to do is rely on your instincts. And if you haven't put in the repetition, you're not going to have the instincts. When you're standing on stage, you don't have to remind yourself to stand on your feet, because that's something you do all the time, right? It doesn't matter how nervous you get, you are always going to stand upright, unless you fucking faint or something. So you want to develop preparation, and then I would mimic the environment. So if you're nervous playing in front of people in general, then play in front of anybody, or even trick yourself. Just put up a camera, a fucking iPad like this, or whatever, and just hit record. And this seems so funny because you're hitting record on your own iPhone. I'm not talking about live streaming. I'm talking about just hitting record. And it's very interesting how quickly your plane will go to shit as soon as you hit the record button. With no one watching, and all you have to do is hit delete after the video, you will suck balls immediately because the environment's different. And you need to replicate that environment to get used to how your body physiologically responds as far as tension, sweating, that type of stuff. And then also cognitively, weird things happen when you're about to perform where all of a sudden you see things with your eyes that you didn't see before. And I mean silly shit. You may all of a sudden when you're playing notice your shoes or a shoelace or what the dude is doing on the other side of the stage, or hey, there's someone in the audience who's like opening their purse and they're looking for something, but what are they looking for? Like you find all of a sudden your mind is wandering because you have so much adrenaline that you're picking out these things. And when you were practicing at home, You weren't noticing that. When you were at home, you weren't thinking about shoes and that dude over there and the person unwrapping some candy. So you gotta figure that out. Now, from a really numerical, like, actuary standpoint, figure out some way to learn the difference of the drop-off in your ability, which is why you need to fake these scenarios. In other words, when you're nervous, how much does your skill set actually fall? Do you drop off 20%, 30%, 40%? I've very commonly seen people drop off 50, 60, 70% from nerves. I have been in situations where I've dropped 50% with that. Yes, Z-Man's there. Yeah, exactly. You build it up and start learning how it works in yourself from the exposure. Plus, when you need to, this is not even related to a question that's been asked here, but in general, is your perception of yourself is not usually very accurate. I call it the imaginary symphony. Like you're playing guitar or whatever, and then you, like, if you're doing like a pretty good job, you imagine in your head like this giant sound and all these people and we're all working together and it's huge. But if you listen to yourself record, you're like, oh, that rhythm's wrong and this isn't good. So replicate the environment, but also record yourself. And it doesn't have to be huge. It could be a single minute. But so you have a chance of, like, this is what I perceived myself playing. This is what the recording plays back, and you can deal with that appropriately. Actually, you know what? I think I have an example to do that. Let's see if I can replicate this. There was a passage in a piece of music where I wanted to play it really sad, and I played it and played it and played it, and I thought I had nailed it. And when I really did. I jumped up and I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude, you fucking crushed that." But when I listened back, it didn't have the desired effect. It was a sad passage. Here we go. Because a lot of times the way you think you're conveying emotion doesn't actually come across the way you intend to. And then a lot of times when we deal with happy, we end up with faster and brighter. And when you deal with sad, you end up with slower and more ominous. So this passage here, I was dragging the time out. I was playing slower because it was sad. I think I can do this here. I was doing something like this. Hold on, let me try again. Right, but what I realized when I listened back is that the slowing of the rhythm robbed all the music of the energy, in my opinion. So really, even though it's sad, should lock the rhythm in and keep the music moving, and maybe you can have a moment of sadness, but you should be more on time with it. Right, like that, more on time. So you have to listen back to figure out if the emotion that you're having in your head is actually making it to the audience, or if you're just tricking yourself. Because you may be the saddest motherfucker in the world, but your music may just come across as boring and slow, but you feel emotionally empowered while you're playing, but it's just not making it to the audience. That's truth. What's up? Did I cover up my thing? On question 5 already? Yes, we are. Oh my god. I'm going to bring in the technical. This is the technical question of the day. Some people are about to get really fucking bored, but that's what we're here to do, is give value. I'm alone. Is kodaguitarguy, that's with a K. Kodaguitarguy. Koda guitar guy. You can spell fucking guitar guy. It's all one word. He says, talk about rest strokes. All right, you ready for some fucking straight up guitar technique? Let's talk about rest strokes. Okay, first of all, what is a rest stroke? There's only 2 strokes on the guitar. The free stroke, which is when you pluck a string, your finger just floats in the air. A rest stroke is when you pluck a string, but your finger comes to rest on the string behind it. Like this. Now, funny thing, when I played that when I asked my mentor about it the first time, he said, wow, those both sound the same, and they both sound bad. The idea between a rest stroke versus a free stroke. Number one idea is that one sounds different than the other. Because if they sound identical, then there's no reason to switch between them. but you may have to work on your playing to make one of them sound different than another. So what is the perceived benefit of a rest stroke versus a free stroke? The idea of a rest stroke is twofold. One, that theoretically, if you've got a good angle on your attack of your finger, that you can get a more rich sound because you're plucking into the guitar instead of kind of somewhat up. And then two is that the volume of the note is louder. There's just more balls to it. That's the idea. The idea is this is my free stroke, and this is my rest stroke. So there should be some more volume in there. But initially you might not find that because your hand's not used to actually executing the move. So what would you use a free stroke for? If you are accompanied by somebody, see you, Drew. If you are just playing a single melodic line, just no bass notes or anything, no chords around it, like you can play all rest stroke to make everything louder. Versus, right? Because you can have more weight in it. But also, if you're playing an accompaniment passage, I'll try to play something in a second. If you have like something going on in the lower register, and you want to bring out a melody on top, then the idea is, if you had control, you could bring the melody even louder with a rest stroke. I actually have not played this at all today. I think I can do this. Right here, it kind of pops out on top. Right. The idea is that I'm playing the accompaniment, but I'm able to bring the melody out higher by having more clarity and volume on the upper note and using the rest stroke to do that. However, I find the rest stroke I think everyone finds this. The rest stroke slows down your playing. So something I work on is trying to get a nice powerful volume off of the free stroke. However, for you bass players out there, this applies to you as well, which is that you should be able to pull back on these strings other than the E and have more volume and depth in your playing. Versus a rest stroke. Sorry, free stroke. This is free stroke. Versus rest stroke. A little more oomph to it. That's the idea behind that. That is our fifth and final question, talking about rest strokes. How long did we do on that? I don't know if this timer was right. But we managed to get through 5 things. Let me shout out everybody who popped up in here. I'm not going to spell your shit again. Sorry, it's just not... I don't think it's a good idea right now. We had our 5 questions for today were from Pedro Suarez 25. I want to know the moment you wanted to play guitar. Who influenced you or gave you the idea, and at what age, and what was your first song? Thank you for answering. Thank you fucking Pedro for posting the question. Question number 2 was, why Spanish guitar, from Mega Vidal, M-A-I-G-A-V-I-D-A-L. I said I wasn't going to spell, but I don't know what the fuck her name is, so I feel like I should spell it out. Question number 3 from Marissa, from NYViewsflatfee, New York Flat Fees. Do you accompany singers, or are they all dumb bitches? And question 4 from matteuscobo, M-A-T-T-E-U-S-C-O-B-O. I guess if you have really ridiculous names, I have no choice but to fucking spell it out. Tips on performing and overcoming anxiety. And question 5 was from kodaguitarguy, talk about rest strokes. Okay. Now you have a second to catch me. I did my 5. You have something that you need to throw up here that I should deal with? From any of y'all? Is anything really ridiculously interesting? How to learn guitar? Okay. Pavan, hold on. Let me get this. Pavan Kanogia, P-A-V-N. I think that's the same guy, right? He wants to know how to learn guitar. Okay. Everybody right now, you break out a pen and paper or pull up the notes on your tablet, because I'm about to drop some fucking knowledge on you. Like, I'm about to drop some concrete, like bricks from the fucking heavens that will destroy everybody. How do you learn guitar? Okay, I want you to look this up. G O O G L. It's this place where you can type in fucking anything and it brings you answers. So how do you learn guitar? You go to Google and you fucking ask it how to learn guitar. And if you can't learn guitar from how do you learn guitar from Google, you should sell your fucking guitar and give up and go do something else, because it doesn't get any fucking easier than that. There was no Google when I fucking started. If you can't go to 7 billion people on the internet and figure out how to play some guitar, just do something different. It's probably not for you. Do I write songs? I do, and I'm a scared bitch, so I don't really play them. But also truth, I don't remember them. I write them down. I've got them in notebooks. I've got them in the audio files on the iPad, iPhone. I've got them saved into my Ableton workspace. But I have not looked at any original material in probably 3 or 4 months. But again, I'm a scared bitch. Eventually, I'll release some of that and figure out what type of stuff you guys like and why it's terrible or why it's good. Like you do with anything else. Anything else before we dip out of this conversation? Which, thanks for whoever's all been here and watching this, and I'll check back and see how I kept the time. I think I need to tighten it up a little more. Again, today I think we had like 12 questions submitted. I made a post a few hours beforehand with about 12 questions submitted. I used 5. I'll probably use the rest of them coming up. Post your questions to any of my, not any, that's bullshit. Post your questions to like my 1 or 2 most recent posts, because there's a chance if it's further back that I won't see it. You could also go to Twitter